Hi, this is Russell from Let's Get Racing. I've been joined by our jockey, Dougie Costello, who's riding definitely all right tomorrow in his first run for us, first run ever, actually. So, Dougie, thanks ever so much for finding the time to talk.
Cheers, Russell.
No problem. As always, we really appreciate it. So, Dougie, we're now a few weeks in from the start of our belatedly started season. How's it going for you so far?
Yeah, it's been a great start. I think, as I said, I spoke to you last time, it was more the weight issues and stuff like that. You're trying to get your weight off, and then hopefully the season lands running. And it did. I think my second ride, I landed a winner on roller. And then a couple of days later, I landed another winner, and then I had a double. So things are going well. Just trying to keep the ball rolling. Yeah.
Great. And I know that you're working with a new agent this year. How's that changed things for you so far?
Yeah, very good. With Adam is a young guy, second year. He'd done it when he was a lot younger, about 10 years ago, when he was in his early 20s. And he just found it overwhelming because it takes a lot of your time as an agent. You're awake at 6 in the morning. You're constantly on the phone. You're dealing with agents and jockeys and trainers. And you're the middleman, so you're going to get that roasting from both sides if things go wrong.
Sure.
But no, he travelled the world a bit. He spent time in Australia with trainers out there, and he looked after the champion jockey in Sweden for a couple of years. And then he came back and he worked at Mark Johnson's for a season. And then he thought, you know what, I think it's time to try and go back into this with agency. He sort of assessed everything, got in touch with me last September, said he wanted to start in a new season. We had a chat. I'd done a bit of homework on him. He's very professional, very clear on what he wanted to do. And you know what, sometimes younger blood actually helps because it brings that new freshness to it and everything. That's what he's done. He's gone both feet in, and he's rang anybody from Maiden O'Brien to Sir Michael Stout with onwards, so he's not afraid to work for us, and he's got us into a few different yards, and he's kept the winners going. And he's quite a good judge at picking out the outsiders as well. So yeah,
great stuff. Well, we're really pleased for you that the season started well. Long may it continue. And that probably leads us on a little bit on to definitely all right. So our first 2-year-old and his first run tomorrow. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about how, as a jockey, when you're riding a 2-year-old, especially first time out, how it's different to riding a more seasoned, more experienced horse. What are you trying to do differently? And how do you have to be more alert or more aware on that ride?
Yeah, it's just like first day at school. If anybody got kids or like that, it's a minute you don't start from the minute they walk into school. You start from the night before. It's literally make sure to get a good night's sleep and they're nice and relaxed. And it's the same thing with young horses. You try and fit in that in an ideal world you'd like not to be riding in the race beforehand, so your saddle can be handed out early. Because the racing saddles and riding out saddles are two different saddles. It actually feels a little bit different on a two-year-old. So in an ideal world, you'd like to be would hand out your saddle early, let the trainer tack up, and the trainer and the 2-year-old get used of the saddle, walk around the yard for a bit, make sure it's nice and relaxed. And a lot of the times, some trainers will know if their 2-year-old needs to be in the parade ring early or late, because some needs to be in early and just take a couple of laps to assess everything and relax into actually everything. And some don't need to be in until late because they just get worked up. So they like to be in late, get the bell ring, get the jockey on with one lap. But as a jockey's point of view, yeah, you like the way out with early. You like to approach the ring and watch with 2-year-old walking around. I suppose first thing for me is you'll assess his eyes, his ears, or her eyes and her ears, and where they're looking at and how sharp they are with their movement and how slow they pick up their feet off the ground. And you can nurse a lot with them walking the parade ring if they need slow surfaces or fast surfaces just by the way they move. So that's another thing you're looking at. And in an ideal world, you always like to, in a 2-year-old race, you'd like to have something that has ran a couple of times or once, because you don't really want to be first out of the parade ring on a first-time runner. because it's a long way down to start. It might be 5 furlongs or 7 furlongs or a mile, but it's still a long way to post on a first timer. So you always like to let them walk around, let a few people hop up, and then get yourself on and get a lead down to post, and it's step by step. You try and hop on nice and sensibly, and try and keep things relaxed, and try and get on the track nice and relaxed, and get a nice lead down to start. And then just try and do everything nice and steady. I think the biggest thing as well for riders, your draws is either high to low, and with even and that, like if you're 1, 3, 7 or 10 or 11, you're in early. So you like to see yourself where we are tomorrow. We're drawn 2, so we have a fair chance of being in middle to late, so we don't have to be that long in the gates. The worst thing is first time in. If you're long time in the gates, 3 or 4 don't load. To get, because they know what's coming. Like they know when they jump out that it's all a little bit racy. So some trainers don't like them to jump sharp. They like them just to go for as a race, nice and relaxed, and learn the curve. Some have them really prepped and ready on first day out. When they get in them gates, they know that they're going to jump and go as fast as they can. So it's a learning curve, but preferably as a jockey, I'd like to take one step at a time. And if they fall out the gates and that happens, with so be it. Just give them a nice education, hands and heels, and let them run through gaps. Let them come home in their own time without being too much hustled or bustled, whether that's win, lose or draw. Just have them to run to actually that line. And they can build off that first run. It really takes a good 2-year-old to win first time out and go on and win again with a penalty. So they would either have to be something special to win first time out and continue that curve.
Sure. And so, I mean, obviously, I know Mark and you have a long relationship, and Mark really trusts your feedback. When you've ridden a 2-year-old in its first race, like you will have written Definitely All Right, what's the feedback that you're able to give Mark as the trainer around how the run has gone, which can help Mark decide how the horse does in the future and where to enter it? What's the sort of stuff that you'd be picking up for him and be able to pass on to him?
Yeah, exactly. I think the first thing will be when you get on the horse and you're cantering the post, it's probably the one time you get to canter down and back up again. So you should really in your head know by the time you canter down towards the start whether the surface that you're cantering on is suitable. Sometimes if it's slow, you can feel them cantering down. They're a little bit all over the shop and they don't really like the surface because it moves underneath. Sure. So that's the first thing you'll be thinking about. But as we said, when you watch them in the parade ring, you'll watch their feet. I would how high to pick it off the floor. And if they pick it only smallly off the floor, 9 times out without a 10, they want fast surfaces, as we would call in the racing game, we would call them with daisy pickers, because they only lift them an inch off the floor. So that's literally, they want a quick surface. So that's the first thing to look at. But on the way down, you'll see how they assess with the ground. And then the next assessment is to make sure how they enter the gate and how they're breathing in the gate. And if some will go in and forget to breathe and get all uptight, and how they like the movement of the gate and the touch of the gate. So that's your first assessment. So, and then again, it's whether they run for the line and stuff like that. So when you pull up, you have your, from passing the winning post to pulling up, you got your 25 seconds of trying to calculate all that in your head, turn around, come back, and then try and assess the race, to mark as well as you can. And that's why it's very good for trainers to know their jockeys, because trainers will understand if jockeys are having an off day, or if their feedback, they might say something and they know how to read their jockeys. So that's why me and Mark has a good relationship, because he knows me for a long time. So he'll know if I might just say something that mightn't be 100% on the gauge, but he'll know what I'm trying to say without oversaying it. But the first thing is the ground, how to relax in the gates, and how to finish off the race. If they've hit the line hard, if they need back and trip, or forward and trip, or different track, or a bend. So they're all the things in your head. You kind of got 3-4 boxes that you want to tick. And when you pull up, you're thinking about, all right, with how to handle the ground and so on,
Sure. And so the race tomorrow is over 7 furlongs. So that's a kind of in-between trip. It's neither a flat-out sprint over 5 furlongs, nor is it a kind of mile or middle distance race. So what's the kind of pace that you feel the horse will be traveling at during the race? What are you trying to do in terms of conserving energy over that slightly extended trip?
Yeah, well, they always say our breeding has a lot to say. You know, in this sport, they always say breeding has a lot to say. And looking at Gear Horse, you know, it's a lot of speed in that on the dam side. You know, you're going from 5 to a mile, but a lot of the 6 furlongs. So in my head, you'd be thinking, well, if you could just break and get a nice lead and just ride a race A to B. A lot of the horses that had ran that are higher up in the market. When I looked at the race earlier, you know, when the first ran, they weren't really fancied like the horse of Mark Johnson. There wasn't a short price, so they didn't really think it would be. You know, they might have had a long-term plan with it. And even the favourite, when the favourite ran, it wasn't a really short price. You know, it was a horse that looked like they were trying to get a gauge on. So a lot of the horses in the race, they're still trying to get a gauge on. We got a nice draw, drawn 2. We'd probably come straight up the middle, but we got like a lot of horses. We have 3 or 4 horses that have ran. So they'll be towards the 4th, like, you know, towards the handy mark. So we should get a nice lead off them that we can just tuck in behind them, hopefully, and just educate, and hopefully follow something that's taking us in towards the race. Hopefully the gaps open up the right time, and hopefully we're straight enough for, you know, and if we're not straight enough, hopefully we learn off the run and go forward with that. We pull up in the filly. We've actually enjoyed the run. But tomorrow's a wide open race. Looking at it, you couldn't take anything out of the race. It's all how they progressed on from the first run. But in my head, you're looking at your filly. You know, on a breeding, with on the breeding, you'd be thinking like it has a bit of pace.
Sure. Well, look, Dougie, we can't wait to see definitely All White run, and can't wait to hear your feedback at the end of the race. So thanks ever so much for your time for this interview, and we look forward to hearing your feedback after the race. So thanks again, mate. Cheers for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you, Crystal. Cheers, bye.